This is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, JD.
What's going on, guys? This is JD here, and this is episode 40 of the WrestleBread Podcast. Did you guys watch the XFL this past weekend? I have to say that it was pretty good. It was a lot better than I expected. I didn't have as high expectations for the XFL. I figured that it was going to be a lot better than it was in 2001. If you saw the XFL back in 2001, it was not a complete joke of football, but it was a bit of a joke of football. You had Vince McMahon out there, as the poster child of the XFL. You had people who got to, name their own jerseys. I mean, we all remember the player called He Hate Me, even though he ended up going into the NFL. I think he went to the Panthers, if not mistaken, but we all remember what it was back in 2001. It was pretty much a joke. And so I figured it would be good, but not really that, oh, I must watch this all the time type of thing. I did check out the AAF, American Allegiance of Football, whatever it was, last year or 2 years ago. I did watch like a game or two of that one, and I really wasn't impressed. And I was just hoping, with watching the XFL, that it wouldn't feel like an amateur, bit of college type games where everyone's fumbling and basically the replacements type of situation. I am very impressed, and I am a football person, even though I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm mainly a football person. So if the Cowboys aren't playing, I will still watch football. Normally on Sundays, I'm watching a 1:00 game, a 4:00 game, and watching Sunday night, and watching Monday night. If there's Thursday night football as well. So I'm a football person, and I was very impressed with the XFL. First of all, the biggest thing that I really like is how transparent everything is. When they were going over reviewing the plays, you heard the referee talking to the guy in the booth, and you hear them explain what the call is going to be and why the call is going to be. So you don't have that feeling that, the game is pretty much rigged. I liked how they did interviews of the players. Poor kicker. There was a kicker who missed the kick, and the person came to interview him right after the kick. Poor guy, had to pretty much explain what happened, that he missed the kick. But I did appreciate it because you get to know the players a lot more. There was a player that dropped the F-bomb on live TV. Expect that, especially if you're interviewing people after they miss tackles and everything. But I like the fact that they were interviewing the players during the game. You didn't really have to stick around for press conferences and everything for people to explain what's going on. You kind of got everything within those 3 hours. And it was a lot of football in those 3 hours. They rarely went to commercials. They had a 10-minute halftime. They had, what else? They didn't have pretty much a halftime. Even during halftime, they were in the locker rooms. So watching the XFL, it felt like I was watching a Madden game, really. Because, with Madden, especially with the storyline, you got to be on the sideline, you got to be in the locker room and everything. And I felt more involved in the game of football with the XFL than I did with the NFL, if that makes sense. So I really like it. I really like how transparent it is, and I felt more involved. Now, of course, there's no team in Philadelphia. Even though I'm not an Eagles fan, if the XFL did put a team in Philadelphia, I'd more likely be a fan of that team. So I've been just pretty much watching all the teams. XFL had put out a map of what each team should, the coverage of every team. And apparently Pennsylvania is split in half. I saw one map that said the DC Defenders. I saw another map that said the New York Guardians, but I did like the DC Defenders, when I watched them. I mean, Cardell Jones he did very well. And what I liked about the XFL is kind of like a gateway to the NFL. There are people who've been on practice squads in the NFL, and really don't have that chance to shine. Because, you know, in the NFL, you have someone like Tom Brady, who's been the quarterback for like 20 years, basically. And so whoever is that backup to Tom Brady, you more likely won't see a rep or two. Or people like Cardell Jones, or people who, you know, who got injured or had to take time away from the game. And of course, very similar to what happened with Tony Romo. He got injured. Unfortunately, his body couldn't do it anymore, but basically got injured. Dak Prescott was drafted. Dak Prescott played better than Tony Romo, and Tony Romo was pretty much pushed out. And that's what happens with a lot of players that, you know, they pretty much get pushed out and there's nothing really left for them. There's the CFL, but you're going all the way up to Canada. So there's really not another football league to really kind of have, so that, you know, even though, no, you're not making as much as you would in the NFL, but at least you're doing what you love. And at least you're getting yourself out there. And I'm pretty sure, I know that from what I've seen this weekend, I feel like the XFL will have another season and possibly more seasons after that. And I think it's a good thing for the XFL, for people, you know, who don't have that shot to be in NFL, get a platform. So yeah, eventually the NFL may pick people from the XFL, as we saw that the XFL is taking former players from the NFL. So I really liked it. There's 4 games this weekend, and the crowd was really into the game. Now, no, these games weren't sold out, of course, because no one really knows what's going on. But I did check out tickets for the New York Guardians, whose home base is MetLife Stadium, and lower level seats are like $30. I mean, $30 to go see a football game, and a pretty good football game at that. It's very good. I mean, if I'm ever up in New York, or if I really feel like taking a day trip for football, I would buy $30 to go see a football game on the lower level. Because at the Eagles games, I mean, the nosebleed seats are more than $30. So the fact that you get to sit down close, and for that first game with Seattle Dragons versus the DC Defenders, that took place in DC, and that crowd was so into the game. And I was pretty happy about it, that, you know, you got to hear it on TV, that there was a lot of reception. And the biggest thing, what I feel as though made the XFL work, is the fact that Vince McMahon is not hands-on in this. You can clearly see that he's letting football people take over. And hopefully he will see the success of XFL and kind of feel like it should translate to WWE. Maybe he really shouldn't be so hands-on like he's been for over 30 years. Maybe he should let people who are very good with wrestling and storylines and things like that kind of take over a little bit more. Unfortunately, it don't seem like that's the road that we're taking right now, because he just fired the vice president of WWE. And of course, the stocks went down. Now, there's a lot of rumors, so I'm now kind of transitioning back to wrestling. There are a few rumors of things that's going on with WWE. First off, there is a rumor that WWE will no longer put their pay-per-view events on the WWE network. Now, I'm not sure if it's the big 4 pay-per-views or if it's every pay-per-view, but obviously, as we all should know, Vince McMahon is not making a lot of money because of his pay-per-view events are costing only $10 for everyone. Now, the thing is with this situation is now Vince McMahon is trying to look to make more money off these pay-per-view events, and we are all used to paying $10 a month for the pay-per-views. Now, granted, I'm sure that if the price goes back up to $60, we would get better pay-per-views, but we really don't know if that's actually going to be the case. I can tell you right now, I'm not paying no more than $10 a month for these pay-per-views, especially the fact that it's a pay-per-view every month, sometimes 2, due to this Saudi Arabia stuff. The other rumor is that Amazon is looking to have the streaming rights for WWE. So maybe if you have Amazon Prime, you'll get to watch the WWE pay-per-view events with it, or maybe not. But there's this last rumor, and I highly doubt this is true, that Jeff Bezos, or Bezos, whatever his last name is, I can't think of it right now, who is the owner and CEO of Amazon is looking to buy WWE. Now, part of me highly doubts that is the case because I'm sure Vince McMahon will want to keep it in the family and let his son and daughter take over and Triple H along with that as well. But another part of me feels like this seems like a Vince McMahon type of move, to screw over his family and be able to walk away with the money himself. I'm very sure if Amazon was to buy WWE, it would definitely set Vince McMahon, for the rest of his life, of course. But that, the property, the sell will be his sell, if that makes sense. He will not be passing the company down to his family, but he will be, basically he's still in control of it. Because in order for him to pass it on to his kids, he will have to either release control or unfortunately pass away. And it seems like this is a Vince McMahon move of if I can't have my control of my company, then no one can. Now, there's no backstory as to why the two vice presidents of WWE was fired, but it could be because they probably were convincing Vince McMahon to either let the company be passed down to his kids. But obviously, actually, no, it was said that their vision was different from Vince McMahon. I think that's the rumor. But as we all know, Vince McMahon likes control. So I don't know if these rumors are true, but it would be very interesting to find out more as we, go further into the year of what the rumor is. Now, going into everything that happened this week, a very interesting week of wrestling, I should say. We got the aftermath on Raw of what happened between Randy Orton and Edge, which was pretty much nothing. Randy Orton came out to a chorus of boos. He picked up the mic to explain why he attacked Edge, and he said, "I can't do this, put the mic down," and he left. We also have Byron Saxton now back on commentary. I don't know if he was on there last week. I'm pretty sure it's just Tom Phillips. Is it Tom Phillips that does it? I forgot who's on Raw. But I could have sworn it was just two people, but it seems like it's three. Ruby Riott is back. She interfered in the match between Lana and Liv Morgan, which was very short, and it was pretty messy as well. And I was pretty happy that it was a short match. And she attacked Liv Morgan. So it looks like we are getting into this spider web type of storyline that has now turned into a complete hot mess. I mean, it was a hot mess beforehand, but now it is a spider web of just hot mess, like hot steaming trash now. And unfortunately, we got Ruby Riott back. So I guess they're setting up Ruby Riott versus Liv Morgan, and hopefully this just kind of separates Lana from this, and we can actually have Liv Morgan being used properly. The absolute thing I do not want to happen is for Ruby Riott to be attacking Liv Morgan because of some crap with Lana. That's what I'm hoping won't happen. Hey, guess what? Now Drew McIntyre is completely over with the fans. He came out just swagging, I have to say. He came out, he told Mojo Rawley, "I'll be with you in one moment." And he spoke to the crowd and he made jokes and everything. And I said, look at this guy. If you had told me 5 years ago, I don't know if it was 5 years ago, but I'm going to think, yes, 5 years ago, looking at Drew McIntyre in 3MB, if you had told me, JD, in 5 years, that skinny guy right over there, he's going to be muscular, he's going to be jacked, he's going to have a full beard and goatee, and he's going to be main event in WrestleMania, I would laugh. I mean, I didn't believe it when Jinder Mahal was going to be champion, and look where we are now. So I'm all for, Drew McIntyre winning the title and getting his WrestleMania shot. That only leaves one person left of 3NBs, which is Heath Slater, and we get to see him a little bit later on SmackDown. But going back to Monday Night Raw, we also had a very good 6-man tag elimination match between Kevin Owens and the Viking Raiders versus Seth Rollins and AOP. And Seth Rollins is now calling himself, the Monday Night Messiah with his man bun and his one glove. And he can keep all that, I have to say. But nevertheless, it was a very good match between Kevin Owens and Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders was eliminated, so it left Kevin Owens versus AOP and Buddy Murphy, who is now called just Murphy. At least he's not called Buddy, because they normally take away either the first name or the last name. So at least he's not called Buddy. It's not a big deal that, he lost his first name. I really wasn't too fond of the Buddy Murphy name anyway, so I'm fine with it just being Murphy. It's not a deal breaker. At least he is getting TV time, and now he's involved in a feud in the stable where we get to see him every week. But we were left with Buddy Murphy and AOP versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, fight back, eliminated Murphy, and eliminated one of the members of AOP. I forgot which one it was, but eventually AOP and Buddy Murphy won the match, and it was another, check off of Seth Rollins' group. We also had Ricochet, who continues to display that he's really not good as far as cutting promos. He does stutter. Not saying that there's something wrong with people stuttering, but if you're giving a promo, especially a convincing promo of you going against Brock Lesnar, you want to sound a lot more confident. He doesn't really sound confident. He sounds a bit rehearsed. You could tell like he doesn't really remember what he's supposed to say. I'm hoping, he's very good in the ring, but he's one of those people where he needs a mouthpiece because he's not really good at talking. We also had Aleister Black versus Eric Young. Eric Young, who remember Eric Young from years ago, on TNA and in NXT, and everyone thought that, he would go on to do very well. And here he is on the main roster, and one of the commentators said that Eric Young was man enough to face Aleister Black. And oh, how the mighty have fallen. We also had Humberto Carlito, who came out, and Zelina Vega came out with her newest client, who is Angel Garza, the cousin of Humberto. They went on to Angel Garza, confronted Humberto, attacked Humberto, and out came Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio and Angel Garza came and had a match, which was pretty good. Of course, it ended with Garza doing the DDT on exposed concrete outside, which led to a DQ. We also had Flair, who was going to cut a promo on who she was going to challenge at WrestleMania since she won the Royal Rumble. And out comes Rhea Ripley. And they cut off Rhea Ripley's entrance, I have to say. I really like when she puts her arms up and then does her little stomp foot thing, whatever. But they cut that off to take a shot at Charlotte. So Rhea Ripley comes out, mentions that Charlotte has never beaten her. In fact, Rhea has beaten Charlotte twice, and she said if you're looking to challenge for a title, and then she takes off her title and puts it up in the air, and Charlotte says nothing, leaves the ring, and then of course woos at the end. So we have no answer at all. We also had Asuka versus Natalya as well. Pretty good match. Unfortunately, Natalya isn't getting as many good matches as she used to, so she eventually taps. Becky Lynch comes out with her glasses and her goat jacket, so I don't know if she's potentially turning heel, since, Seth Rollins is a heel. It's very funny that now that Seth Rollins is heel and he's on this whole Monday Night Messiah thing, that they're never mentioning that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are together, like they did when they were both champion back at, Extreme Rules. So I find it very funny that now they're not talking about how they're together, they're in a relationship. Seth Rollins is the man's man. Becky Lynch is the girlfriend of Seth Rollins. So, yeah. And then we get the main event of Seth Rollins versus Ricochet versus Bobby Lashley. And this was a pretty good match. I was a bit confused that they put Bobby Lashley in this match. Like, I get it, but he's been involved with this storyline with Lana that I'm not upset that they stopped doing a lot with it. But I don't get how he gets a title shot potentially against Brock Lesnar. A lot of things don't make sense that happened this week, I have to say. But in the end, Ricochet won the match. As he was about to celebrate, out comes Brock Lesnar and F5 the shit out of Ricochet. I pray for Ricochet's body. He's going to be so sore after Super Showdown, because we all know that Brock Lesnar likes to toss around, athletes who are about half his size. So I don't know how many times Ricochet's going to be F5'd or how many suplexes he's going to take, but I just hope he knows not to fall on his neck whenever he gets that suplex, however many suplexes he gets. Now, going into NXT, this week I mainly watched AEW. I did catch like the last hour of AEW and I had to go back and rewatch it. And then I also rewatched NXT as well. So going into NXT, we actually had Charlotte Flair who shows up. Bianca was cutting a promo. Charlotte Flair shows up. And then as they were about to start going at each other, we had Rhea Ripley come out. And Bianca Belair was in Rhea Ripley's face. And then Charlotte took her hand and put her hand in Bianca's face. Like straight up played her like get out of the way type of thing. Bianca, and I hope there's a gif out there of the reaction that Bianca gave. Because she was like, did she really do this? Normally, now, the way that Bianca did it, normally when you react like that, you follow up with, an immediate slap to the face type of thing. Like, it's like on site, I'm kicking your ass type of thing. But she was cracking me up because she was like, what? No, she didn't. Are you serious? She really put her hand in my face. The whole talking to yourself that you kind of do whenever something happens like that. And then Bianca went and got into Charlotte's face again. And then Charlotte says, this conversation is between champions, and played her the second time. And that's when I was like, okay, Bianca, you're not a fool. Let's take your right hand, take it back a couple of feet and just whack Charlotte right in her face. Maybe come back with a backhand slap as well, if you feel like it, so that you can even up the cheeks a bit. But, Rhea Ripley then, defended Bianca Belair, which I liked. I liked that angle that they took, that, Rhea Ripley said, you know what? I know that, you haven't been down here for a while, but we have a saying, we are NXT. You're not going to disrespect us down here. And Bianca and Rhea Ripley both jumped Charlotte Flair. And I like that. I like that it kind of still has that sense of what happens during the Survivor Series, how people come together to represent their own brand. So I like that because, it kind of continues like, yeah, we're going against each other, but you're not going to come into our house and disrespect us as well. So I like that they did that type of angle with the three of them. Very excited to see what happens between Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. I'm kind of thinking that Rhea Ripley is going to retain her title, and then we're going to get Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania as well. We also had a very good match between Devlin and Tyler Breeze. Tyler Breeze is still a pretty good competitor in the ring. Unfortunately, his gimmick kind of limits where he goes as far as, staying in the mid card, not really getting to the top of the ladder type of situation. Would I have loved for him to win the title? Sure. But unfortunately, like I said, the gimmick that he's in is but so much that he can do, as far as NXT. Now, I like the fact that NXT is using him a lot more so we can, see a lot of what he does in the ring. But, there's only but so much we can do. We also had the Undisputed Era going up against Tommaso Ciampa and the Broserweights. Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. Towards the end, Roderick Strong came in and interfered, which caused the DQ. The Undisputed Era then attacked everyone, had Tommaso Ciampa by themselves, and they spray painted his back with an X. Very NWO-like. And as they're about to attack him, the arena went dark, and then you see on the screen, it was 3 circles that said 2520. And I remember seeing that, and I really didn't think much of it. And the numbers disappear, and you see the circles come together to interlink as, one up top, 2 at the bottom, and then you realize it is Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream is back. He showed up on top of a turnbuckle, jumped down, and started attacking the Undisputed Era. So now we have the Undisputed Era going up against Tommaso Ciampa, the Broserweights, and Velveteen Dream as well. So I'm very happy that Velveteen is back from injury. He has a very promising career. The fact that he's only 23 years old, I can't wait to see what he has, coming, what he has stored up, the storylines that they're going to be using for him as well. I don't think that he's going to be entering into TakeOver Portland this quickly, since this is the week of the event. But maybe possibly a pre-show if they do a pre-show match to kind of get him back into the groove of things. Or they're just going to wait until, the the live show on USA to start getting him involved in a storyline to lead up to TakeOver Mania. Going into AEW, we had Metal Solid, or Snake, aka Jon Moxley, going up against Ortiz. And Santana tried to interfere as well. And this led to Santana getting his eye poked out. I think it was with a pair of keys. So now Santana is wearing an eye patch as well. Then we had the BFFs going against SCU. We had a pretty funny spot where the BFFs and SCU was laid out, and you see Orange Cassidy come into the middle of everyone because everyone was laid out on the floor. And then he lays down on the floor and crosses his legs. I thought that was a pretty funny spot. Then we had Yuka Sakazaki going against Britt Baker. Britt Baker was booed very heavily during the match. And Yuka had won the match, and then Britt Baker attacked her with the ring bell. And then she put her in her submission hold. Before she did that, actually, she had Yuka up against the ropes and she kicked her. Yuka had her mouth on the ropes, and then Britt Baker kicked her in the head, and then they showed that Yuka's mouth started bleeding and she spit out a tooth. And they zoomed in on her hand to show that, a tooth came out of her mouth. And then that's when Britt Baker did her submission maneuver. So I'm sitting there like, I guess her thing now is that she's kicking people's teeth out. I don't know. It was a bit confusing to me. Then after that, we had the 8-man tag match with the Butcher and the Blade with the Lucha Brothers versus the Elite. I miss the fact that the Lucha Brothers was on top of their game. I mean, I love their theme. Like I keep saying, Rey Fenix is not a human being. But now they're starting to get lost into the shuffle. And then the biggest thing with the tag team matches is that there are no rules. They really need to work on that. As much as I love when they have these tag team matches, it's just like, who's the legal person? I mean, why? I know that they got the 20 count, but it just seems like it's like anything goes in these tag team matches. It really makes no sense. Skipping to the end, we had the 10 lashes to Cody Rhodes back. And I have to say, it was one of the most emotional segments that AEW has put out so far. This did so much for, storyline wise, the fact that Cody Rhodes, refused to get up, and it just made him so much more of a babyface, and it made MJF really shine as a heel. And I wish that the thinking and the consistency they put as far as with Cody Rhodes and MJF, I really wish they can do that with other, with other people. I mean, we have Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle as well. But like I said before, AEW is really missing like true baby faces like Cody Rhodes. That, underdog, willing to do, the underdog type of thing. Courageous and, such a good person to cheer for. And I'm hoping that, as AEW continues on with the AEW Dynamite and AEW Dark, whatever the second show is going to be, that they really work on getting the crowd behind some of these wrestlers. Now, the crowd is starting to get behind Hangman Page with the whole drinking problem. He is now really a bunch of memes and gifs now. But nevertheless, the crowd is behind him. So the crowd is also behind Jon Moxley, of course. And I hope that they start doing it with the women. There's really not a lot of women in the women's division that the crowd really goes for, except for Riho. But Riho is barely seen on TV now. You get a lot more attention from Brandy Rhodes and this Nightmare Collective as well. And the weird thing is, during the 10 lashes that Cody took, you see Brandy Rhodes come out completely out of her character to cheer on Cody Rhodes. Maybe, she really shouldn't go the heel route, but to really work on being somewhat of an underdog, I guess I should say, similar to her husband. But I don't know. The women's division is a bit messy. I understand, NXT and WWE took a lot of the good women out there in the indie shows, but they had Mercedes Martinez first. And, we saw Mercedes on NXT this week. They even did a little vignette, to get a bit of a background of her. But AEW had her first. And they really didn't utilize her well. They put her in like battle royals and stuff. But they really didn't have much for her because they still really don't know what to do with the women in their division. And unfortunately, they lost her. Now she is with WWE. And I understand that WWE was, paying her a lot more, of course. But like I said, AEW had her first. They could have definitely gave her a lot more as far as like being on TV more, having a flexible schedule, and giving her an actual storyline to work with. Now, going on to SmackDown, the Dirt Sheets are back. They did The Miz and John Morrison did a bit of an Oscar-worthy video package, which was pretty funny. So I really miss them being together. We have, them going against the New Day now. We also then had the Usos come out, and we had the Usos going against Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler once again. Then we had Elias going against Smooth Tony, or aka Cesaro. Every time I see Cesaro with his, designer outfit and designer athletic wear, I should say, and his big ass sunglasses, he reminds me of like Smooth Tony for some reason. And then the biggest question I have, how the hell did Goldberg get a title shot? Now I understand that there are other people who got title shots like Ricochet or Seth Rollins, but Goldberg, the last time we saw Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, it was not a good match at all. The man concussed himself because his dumbass decided to bang his head against a door. Back in the day, yeah, you can do that and you would win. Sometimes he would bleed from it. But you're a little older now. And so you're not going to win the battle between your head and your door. The door is going to win and you're going to come out a bit concussed from it. So I loved the way that the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, I should say, responded to his challenge, but I just don't know why. But, it is Saudi Arabia. And they tend to put on these crazy matches like Undertaker versus Goldberg and Undertaker and Kane versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So I'm not exactly surprised. that Goldberg is wrestling again, but for a title shot. And so a lot of people are concerned that this would lead to Goldberg winning the title, which I really hope is not the case. I will, definitely scream in anger if Bray Wyatt loses the title to Goldberg, because like I had said before, the person for him to lose the title to could have been Daniel Bryan, because, you could have easily used the power of the Yes movement for The Fiend to lose the title, but not to Goldberg, who can barely, hold up in the match without getting gassed, concussed himself, and isn't really put on 5-star matches. Now, I'm going to be honest, even though I watched a little bit of WCW, I still was a WWE mark, but when I watched WCW, I was not a Goldberg fan. I thought that he was pretty overrated, that people was riding his jock just because, and that, he really wasn't. I felt as though he was a discount. I forgot who was out at that time, but, I think he was just a ripoff. It wasn't anything special about him. But we're getting Goldberg versus The Fiend for the title at Super Showdown. And I'm hoping that The Fiend destroys Goldberg. And I mean that with everything in me. Not actually destroy him, but just in the ring, destroy him. Like, this should be pretty much a squash match after I say Goldberg gets like maybe 15 seconds of offense in, and then it should be a squash match from there. That's what I want. I want it to be one-sided for The Fiend, because Goldberg really shouldn't have anything going in this match. And I'm pretty sure Goldberg's going to get a spear, possibly a jackhammer, but I hope The Fiend kicks out at 1, and I hope The Fiend dominates this match. And if it's anything else than that, I'm going to be disappointed. Now, on to Heath Slater versus Daniel Bryan. Heath Slater looking a little jacked there. I think he's trying to follow his 3MB bandmates path of getting jacked up so he can get his title shot as well, because he got kids. When you have kids, you need all the money and all the opportunities that you can get. And let's give Heath Slater a title. I forgot the saying from. I know for Jinder Mahal, don't hinder the gender, whatever it was. Drew McIntyre don't really have a saying. But I forgot what Heath Slater's saying was. But, he has kids. So he's going to get jacked up and maybe not leave the company, but he's definitely going to get jacked up. Maybe he might leave the company, because that seems to be what happened with Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. They left the company, got jacked, came back, and WWE's like, oh, look at Drew McIntyre. Oh, look at Jinder Mahal. And so I hope Heath Slater gets jacked up, comes back with some banging ass entrance music. And I have to admit, I still rock out to Jinder Mahal's theme. I actually listened to it today on the way home from work. Like, I have a Spotify playlist, and sometimes it'll refer songs. And so it refers some WWE theme songs to it. And I saw Jinder Mahal's theme. So I started to listen to it and nod my head a little bit to it. And I was listening to Samoa Joe's theme as well. And if, from Raw last night, you see that he has come back. And I was like, see, it was meant to be, because I was listening to his theme a little bit. But we had Heath Slater, going against Daniel Bryan. Of course, Daniel Bryan won the match. But it seems like they're turning Daniel Bryan a little bit, we're continuing on the story that, The Fiend, after you fight The Fiend, he kind of changes you. I'm not quite sure what with The Miz, he actually healed The Miz because John Morrison came back. With Finn Balor went to NXT and turned to a great heel. So far, every person that he's been going against, he's been either healing, he went up against Seth Rollins, and now Seth Rollins had the go away heat, and now he has the heel heat. He healed Seth Rollins. Heck, Bray Wyatt defeated Seth Rollins so bad, he thinks he is a Jesus now. So I can only imagine what is going to happen to Dan Bryan. And maybe, since maybe you know what? It just hit me. I'm looking at this Goldberg versus The Fiend match completely wrong. Maybe Goldberg wants to go against The Fiend so he could be healed as well. Maybe after Goldberg gets his ass beat by The Fiend, maybe he'll get healed and maybe he'll realize like, hey, I'm not that good at wrestling like that. Maybe I shouldn't hit my head against that door at 20 miles per hour. Maybe I shouldn't act like, I'm that one, Maybe I should just humble myself. And maybe I should stop saying you're next, like I don't get my ass beat from time to time. Maybe Goldberg will be healed. I'm very interested to see that now. I would like to see how Goldberg will be healed. And I would like to thank The Fiend for, taking this time out and taking the opportunity to do what we all want. And that's to see Goldberg be healed. So coming up this week, episode 41 is going to come out hopefully. I'm going to aim for Friday. It's going to come out on Friday with the predictions for TakeOver Portland and a little bit of what happened so far this week as well. Between the ratings for AEW and NXT, AEW had 928,000, where NXT had 770,000. So definitely well over 1.5 million people watching wrestling on Wednesday. Now, of course, it could be some of the same people watching both shows, but overall, at least 1 million people watched wrestling. And I would have to say I'm a bit surprised that AEW is really pulling a lot. I thought that, because we're starting to enter WrestleMania season, that NXT will start pulling away and AEW's numbers will start to drop. But probably the fact that we have this storyline between Cody Rhodes, MJF, Chris Jericho, and Jon Moxley going, that is really pulling in a lot more people. Like I said, I do be watching AEW mainly because I can catch NXT a lot more often. And plus there are some things about AEW that I like. As far as different storylines and different things going, I like AEW more. But as far as in-ring action, NXT definitely pulls out, especially when it comes to the women's division. But I like AEW because it does have its moments, with Cody Rhodes taking the 10 lashes, Chris Jericho, of course, being on commentary, Jon Moxley basically looking like Metal Gear Solid, in the flesh. But yeah, I like the fact that, let's keep it going. Let's keep the Wednesday Night Wars going. And I've thought that, NXT would be pulling on a lot more people, but their numbers are a lot higher than it's been for the past couple of weeks when NXT was I think it was down to the 500s, I believe, maybe a month or two ago. But we also had another announcement too that I forgot to mention. WWE announced where WrestleMania 37 will be, and it will be in Hollywood. So all the way out in LA if you're looking to travel for WrestleMania 37. And it looks like WrestleMania 37 will take place on March 28th, which is a lot earlier than they normally do it. Normally it's in April. I'm hoping eventually one of these years it will take place on my actual birthday weekend. Because my birthday's on April 9th, and normally WrestleMania is always the weekend before my birthday. So I always take it, a week-long celebration, because you got all WrestleMania, and then it leads pretty much into my birthday. And I'm hoping one of these years that I would, get the luck of WrestleMania landing on my birthday weekend. And next year my birthday's on a Friday. But 2022, it's on a Saturday, and then 2023 is on a Sunday. And then I'm hoping, one of these years they would have WrestleMania in Philly. I highly doubt it because, it's a lot in order for WrestleMania to come here, especially since we're in a colder climate. But I realize they always have it in MetLife Stadium, so why can't we have it in Lincoln Financial Field? But I'm still hoping one of these years we're going to get it back in Philly again. I did miss it when WrestleMania was here. I think that was WrestleMania 17 maybe. And I was a minor at that time. And I couldn't, of course, get tickets, nor could I convince my mom to give me tickets. Actually, that was WrestleMania 15 that took place. So I was 15 years old. Yeah, I definitely couldn't get into WrestleMania with the tickets. So yeah, it took place at WrestleMania 15. So I'm hoping that we would get, WrestleMania again. Maybe WrestleMania 38, but maybe I will go to WrestleMania 37 for my quote unquote birthday, even though it's like 2 weeks before my birthday. Or I can just see where WrestleMania 38 is and just go from there. Cause I did tell myself whenever WrestleMania goes to the UK that I might go for that. Because it seems like a WrestleMania in the UK will probably be one of the best experience ever, because the crowd, the wrestling fans over there are not really crazy, but they're the good kind of crazy. They're legit. They have their chants down pat, and it seems like they will give us American wrestling fans such a good time over there. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JD Talks. That's JAYDEE Talks. Be sure to follow the podcast at WrestleBread as well. I appeared on a few podcasts recently. I appeared on a Powerbomb Jitsu podcast. Their episode had released late last week. It was episode 211, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. But it was, they did call the episode WrestleBread, which I'm pretty honored that they named the whole episode, after me. It was a pretty good episode. We talked about XFL. We talked about a lot of different things as well. And then I also appeared on the Keita and Jay show for a post Royal Rumble as well. It's always good, talking up with them and everything. And yeah, keep looking out for me. Follow me. I'll be tweeting live during NXT, AEW, and for SmackDown too. I'm actually watching Monday Night Raw as I'm recording this. And Shayna the Vampire. I made a joke that's probably how The Walking Dead started, by Shayna Baszler biting Becky Lynch's neck and making it bleed, and then Becky Lynch then goes and drives off in an ambulance to the hospital. So I find that very funny. And now I see Ricochet cutting a promo, and hopefully he's not stuttering and acting like he doesn't know what to say. Good luck to them. But thank you so much. Let me know your thoughts of the XFL, what's going on in wrestling, what you think is going to happen with WWE, the pay-per-views and Amazon and everything. And until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.